Ladies and gentlemen, there's a mystery hidden in this title. A witch, feared by many, known for power, authority, and dark influence, yet trembling, shaking and backing away when fire appeared. Why would a creature of power bow before a flame? Why would someone who controlled spirits, who manipulated atmospheres, who could summon voices in the night, suddenly shrink at the sight of lighted fire? You see, this is not just a story about witches, it's a revelation about life. Every dark force has a weakness. Every stronghold has a breaking point. Every enemy has something it cannot stand against. And tonight I want you to catch this truth. The witch feared the flames because fire exposes, fire purifies, and fire destroys what cannot endure. When we talk about witches fearing flames, we are not merely speaking of literal fire, but of the spiritual representation of fire as truth and purity. Darkness thrives in secrecy, in hidden places where lies can grow, where whispers manipulate, and where the human mind is clouded with confusion. But the moment truth enters, darkness begins to tremble. Truth is like a flame. It may start small, like a single candle, but it has the power to drive away an entire room full of shadows. Think about it. A room completely engulfed in darkness can be shifted entirely by one matchstick, one tiny flicker of fire, one small flame. Darkness does not argue with light, it flees. The witch fears the flame not because of the fire itself, but because of what the fire represents. Fire means the end of secrecy. Fire means the collapse of deception. Fire means the unveiling of what has been hidden. You see, darkness has no agenda without secrecy. Manipulation only thrives where there is ignorance. The witch's power is never in her spells, her chants, or her potions. It is in the ignorance of those who fear her. But once truth arrives, the spell is broken. This is why in life, many people avoid truth. They resist confrontation. They shy away from clarity because it feels painful. But truth, like fire, does not come to destroy you. It comes to purify you. It comes to burn away what does not belong, so that only what is real can remain. And that is why darkness fears it. Darkness cannot withstand purification because it thrives on contamination. It cannot stand clarity because it feeds on confusion. It cannot endure light because it grows in shadow. Let me remind you, when you carry truth inside you, you carry a fire that intimidates darkness. That's why some people avoid you. That's why certain friends grow uncomfortable when you enter the room. That's why gossip dies when you show up, because the flame of truth within you exposes what they wanted to keep hidden. The witch fears the flame not because of your size, not because of your voice, not because of your education, but because of the truth you carry. And that's why you cannot compromise with lies. If you dim your fire to make others comfortable, you give power back to darkness. The only way to overcome what hides in shadow is to shine brighter. Don't let your flame flicker because of fear of rejection. Don't let your fire go out because others cannot handle the heat. The witch does not fear your silence, she fears your flame. When you walk in truth, you become untouchable to the manipulation of darkness. When you carry fire, no spell, no curse, no whisper of evil can stand against you. That is why the witch feared the flames. And that is why every darkness that has been intimidating you will fall when you decide to let your fire burn without apology. When we talk about fire, we must understand its true nature. Fire is never neutral. Fire does not simply exist without effect, it always does something. It either warms, it refines, or it consumes, it never leaves anything the same. And this is why evil fears fire, because fire is the one element that tests the integrity of everything it touches. You can pretend in the dark, you can fake in the shadow, you can even deceive in the absence of light, but when fire comes, the pretense is over. Fire reveals what cannot endure. Fire purifies what is real. Fire strips away what is temporary and leaves only what is eternal. When you place gold into fire, it is not destroyed. Instead, the impurities that were hiding within the gold are exposed and removed. The gold does not fear the fire because the fire makes it purer, stronger, more valuable. But if you put straw, paper, or dry wood into that same fire, it is consumed instantly because it cannot withstand what the fire requires. That is the difference between truth and deception, between righteousness and wickedness, between character and compromise. What is true will survive the fire. What is false will perish in it. Now, here is the mystery. Evil thrives where there is no test, where there is no standard, where there is no refining. That is why it loves darkness. Darkness conceals, but fire exposes and purifies. The witch fears the flame not just because of the light, but because fire takes away the power of pretense. Evil always wants to look stronger than it really is, but when the fire comes, it strips away the illusion and shows that it was weak all along. This is why in life, you should never be afraid of the fire of challenges, the fire of testing, the fire of trials, because while evil cannot endure it, you can. Fire does not destroy the one who is aligned with truth. It only makes them stronger. If you are carrying something real inside of you, every time you go through the fire, you come out more refined, more authentic, more powerful. But the enemy fears that process because fire reveals what cannot hide. Think about it this way: fire is a separator. It distinguishes between what belongs and what does not. In the natural, if you take ore from the ground, it looks like a mixture of dirt, dust, and fragments. But when you put it in the fire, suddenly the worthless is separated from the priceless. And that's what fire does in your life. It reveals your true essence, while consuming the things that are not supposed to be there. The witch cannot stand fire because evil is always mixed with deception, and fire does not allow mixture. Fire makes separation inevitable. That is why some people resist you when you carry fire. Because when you walk into a place burning with conviction, burning with purpose, burning with clarity, the fire in you begins to reveal the truth about others. And they don't like that. They preferred it when things stayed comfortable in the shadows. They preferred it when no one challenged the compromise, when no one questioned the lie, when no one stirred the silence. But the moment the flame of purification shows up, people must either change or burn. And here is where you must be courageous. Do not dim your fire to keep the witch comfortable. Do not lower your standard to avoid confrontation. Fire is meant to purify, not to please. And purification is never convenient. When fire enters, it disrupts, it separates, it shakes. But it also liberates, because the things that cannot withstand the flame were never meant to control you in the first place. You see, evil always fears purity because purity cannot be manipulated. When you are pure, you cannot be bribed. You cannot be seduced by lies. You cannot be shaken by intimidation. Purity makes you uncorruptible. And that is the true reason the witch fears the flame. Because when you are purified, you become untouchable to her influence. Fire is the only element that can reach into hidden places and cleans what cannot be seen with the natural eye. So understand this truth tonight: fire does not come to destroy you, it comes to make you. It does not come to weaken you, it comes to strengthen you. The same flame that terrifies the witch is the flame that transforms you. The same fire that destroys evil is the fire that refines your destiny. That is why you should not run from the fire, embrace it. Because if evil cannot withstand purification, it means that your fire is your greatest weapon against every force of darkness. When light enters a place, it does not ask permission. It does not negotiate with darkness. It does not politely wait its turn. It simply shines, and the moment it shines, darkness has no choice but to retreat. And this is why darkness fears light, because light exposes what it has worked so hard to conceal. Darkness thrives on deception, on hidden motives, on unspoken agendas, on unchallenged lies. But once light arrives, the hidden becomes visible, the secret becomes revealed, and the deception loses its power. That is why the witch feared the flame. Because the flame is light, and the light removes the cover she used to operate under. Deception only works in the absence of light. A magician's trick only succeeds if you do not see his hands clearly. A liar's words only persuade when you do not examine them carefully. A manipulator only controls when you do not question their motives. The moment you bring light, the illusion ends. And that is the power of truth. It is the unveiling of reality. It is the exposure of deception. It is the revealing of hidden agendas that were designed to control you, mislead you, or keep you bound. You see, there are two kinds of power in life. The first is the power of truth, and the second is the power of deception. Truth does not need to hide. Truth does not need manipulation. Truth stands boldly in the light because it has nothing to conceal. But deception depends entirely on shadows. It cannot exist without ignorance. It cannot operate without secrecy. The witch thrives on deception, but the moment the light of truth is introduced, her schemes are revealed for what they are, powerless illusions built on lies. Think about your own life. How many times did you fear something in the dark, only to realize that when the light came on, it was never as dangerous as it seemed? A shadow looked like a monster until the light revealed it was only a chair. That is what deception does. It enlarges lies in the absence of light. It magnifies fear in the absence of truth. But once the light shines, the fear disappears because the deception has been broken. This is why you must walk in light. Because when you carry light, you disarm deception. People may try to manipulate you, but the light of discernment will reveal their agenda. Enemies may plot against you, but the light will expose their schemes before they succeed. Darkness cannot fight light. It can only hide from it. And as long as you keep the flame burning, no hidden agenda can stand against you. And let me tell you, exposure is one of the greatest weapons you have against darkness. When something evil is exposed, it loses its power. When a hidden agenda is revealed, it loses its influence. That's why deception fears exposure more than confrontation. A lie can survive a fight, but it cannot survive light. Because light reveals that it was never truth to begin with. That is why the witch feared the flame, because the flame would expose her for what she was. But here is the lesson for you. Light does not just expose the agendas of others, it also reveals the hidden things within you. It forces you to confront your own motives, your own weaknesses, your own inconsistencies, and that is why many people resist light. It is not just that they fear what will be exposed around them. They fear what will be exposed within them. But remember, exposure is not meant to destroy you, it is meant to free you. It is better to face truth and change than to live in deception and remain bound. If you want to overcome the witch, if you want to walk in authority over darkness, you must embrace the light. Do not compromise with deception. Do not entertain half-truths. Do not allow hidden agendas to linger in your life. Bring everything into the light. Because when the light shines, the deception dies, and once deception dies, darkness loses its grip. Authority is never theory. It is never just words, titles, or positions. Authority must be tested, and the proof of it always shows up in confrontation. You never know the strength of a lion until it roars in the face of a challenge. You never know the true power of a king until his throne is threatened. You never know the validity of authority until it is confronted by opposition. That is why the witch feared the flame, because the flame did not remain silent in her presence. It confronted her domain. It challenged her territory. It tested her influence. And in that moment, her authority was exposed as powerless. Silence never defeats darkness. Silence only empowers it. When you remain silent in the face of deception, lies continue to spread. When you remain silent in the face of intimidation, fear continues to grow. When you remain silent in the face of evil, evil gains confidence. But the moment you confront it, authority is revealed. And confrontation is not always violent. It is simply the willingness to face the opposition with what you know is true. Think about it. Light never negotiates with darkness. It does not say, "Let me stay in this corner while you occupy that corner." No, light enters and confronts darkness, and instantly darkness flees. That is authority in action. The flame does not need to shout, it does not need to argue, it simply burns, and in burning it proves its dominance over the night. The same is true for you. Your authority is never confirmed in hiding. It is confirmed in the moments when you dare to stand in the middle of opposition and refuse to bow. This is why many people never walk in true authority, because they avoid confrontation. They want peace without resistance, progress without pressure, victory without battle. But authority cannot be proven where there is no challenge. Authority is forged in the fire of conflict. It is when the storm rises that you discover whether your anchor is real. It is when the lion roars that you find out if you are truly courageous. It is when the witch threatens that you reveal whether you are carrying fire or only carrying talk. Authority is not about volume, it is about presence. When someone with authority walks into a room, the atmosphere changes. Not because they shout louder, but because they carry weight. And that weight is proven when it is challenged. That is why kings sit on thrones not for decoration, but for demonstration. Their authority is validated not when everyone agrees, but when they face rebellion and still stand. In the same way, your authority over darkness is not proven when life is calm. It is proven when the battle rises and you refuse to back down. Let me make it clear, confrontation is the birthplace of demonstration. You cannot demonstrate authority until something rises against you. If there is no witch, there is no proof of the flame. If there is no storm, there is no proof of the anchor. If there is no Goliath, there is no proof of David's stone. And that is why sometimes life will allow opposition to come, not to destroy you, but to give you an opportunity to demonstrate who you really are. When the witch saw the flame, she was confronted. She was not prepared for exposure. She was not prepared for purity. She was not prepared for truth. And in that confrontation, her authority collapsed. That is the power of confrontation. It always separates the real from the false. When you confront what is trying to intimidate you, you force it to reveal its true nature. And most of the time, the enemy is weaker than you imagined. What looked powerful in the shadows becomes fragile in the light of confrontation. So let me say this to you. Stop running from the things that are challenging your destiny. Stop avoiding the moments of confrontation that were designed to reveal your authority. If you keep hiding, you will never know what you carry. If you keep silent, darkness will never fear you. Authority is not proven in comfort zones, it is proven in battlefields. And when you decide to confront, you will discover that your flame is stronger than any witch, your truth is stronger than any lie, and your authority is stronger than any intimidation. Power by itself can be deceptive. Just because something looks strong, just because it seems influential, just because it makes noise, does not mean it is built to last. Power is only sustainable when it is aligned with truth. Anything else is temporary. A building without foundation may look impressive for a season, but when the storm comes, it collapses. A voice that shouts loudly but is not grounded in truth may intimidate for a moment, but when tested, it will fade. That is why the witch feared the flame, because her power was not rooted in truth. It was rooted in deception. And deception cannot stand when fire arrives. You see, truth is eternal. Truth does not change with opinion. It does not bend under pressure. It does not adjust itself to culture or convenience. Truth remains constant. That is why when your power is aligned with truth, it cannot be shaken. But when your power is aligned with lies, it is fragile. It may look strong, it may impress for a time, but it is only a matter of time before it collapses under the weight of reality. Look at history. Empires have risen with enormous power, controlling nations, conquering territories, ruling with fear. But when they were not aligned with truth, they crumbled. Dictators have boasted of their might, but because they built on oppression and lies, their thrones fell. That is the principle. Power without truth is always temporary. It cannot stand. And this applies not just to nations or leaders, but to individuals. If your influence is built on lies, if your relationships are built on manipulation, if your success is built on shortcuts, eventually, the fire of truth will expose it and collapse will follow. This is why the witch, who looked so powerful in darkness, trembled at the flame. Because the flame represented truth, and truth is the one thing that false power cannot fight. It does not matter how many spells she chanted, how many people she intimidated, or how much fear she spread. Once truth appeared, her entire structure of power was threatened. The flame did not need to argue. The flame did not need to prove itself. The flame simply burned and her power started to collapse. And here is where we must be careful in our own lives. Sometimes we are tempted to build our strength on things that are not real. We chase positions without purpose. We seek influence without integrity. We desire success without substance. And for a time, it may look like it is working. People may applaud, doors may open, attention may come. But if what you are building is not aligned with truth, it is only a matter of time before the fire comes to test it. And when the fire comes, what is false will not survive. But here is the beauty. When your power is aligned with truth, it will last. Truth is unshakable. It will outlive lies. It will outlast opposition. It will endure storms. And that is why you must root everything you do in truth. Your influence, your leadership, your vision, your relationships. If they are grounded in truth, they cannot collapse. Even if they are tested, even if they are challenged, even if they are attacked, they will endure. The tragedy is that many people mistake noise for power. They think intimidation equals authority. They think manipulation equals influence. They think deception equals strategy. But all of these collapse because they are not aligned with truth. It is like building a house on sand. It may look fine until the rain comes. And when the storm hits, the collapse is not gradual, it is sudden and total. That is the fate of all power disconnected from truth. The flame reminds us of this reality. It does not destroy what is real, it confirms it. It does not collapse what is aligned with truth, it purifies it. But it will always bring down what is false. That is why evil fears the flame, and that is why deception trembles at the presence of truth. Because power that is built on lies cannot survive exposure. So the call for you is simple. Do not just seek power, seek alignment. Do not just pursue influence, pursue truth. Because power without truth may look impressive for a moment, but it is destined to fall. And when it collapses completely. Influence and domination are not the same thing. Influence may affect you for a moment. It may whisper in your ear. It may attempt to shape your perspective. But domination is only possible where there is no greater power resisting it. A witch can influence minds, she can stir emotions, she can manipulate environments, but she cannot dominate a life that is burning with divine purpose. Purpose is stronger than influence, because purpose is rooted in identity, and identity is unshakable when it is aligned with truth. The reason why the witch feared the flame was because the flame represented a life already consumed with purpose. You cannot manipulate someone who knows why they are here. You cannot control someone who is burning with conviction. You cannot dominate a person who has already surrendered to something greater than themselves. The fire of purpose makes you ungovernable by fear, unshaken by manipulation, and untouchable by deception. You see, influence works best on the undecided. Influence is most powerful over the confused. Influence thrives on those who have not yet discovered who they are and why they exist. That is why the greatest attack of the enemy is not to destroy you directly. It is to distract you from purpose. Because once you lose sight of your purpose, you become vulnerable to influence. You begin to follow the opinions of others. You allow culture to dictate your values. You let fear control your steps. That is when the witch finds room to influence. But the moment you discover your fire, the moment you ignite your purpose, that influence is broken. Think about a candle flame in the wind. The wind may sway it, but it cannot put it out if the source is strong. The witch may blow, may whisper, may attempt to bend your focus, but if your fire of purpose is rooted deep, she cannot extinguish it. Influence may attempt to distract, but purpose keeps you steady. Purpose is like an anchor. It holds you when storms come. It grounds you when lies whisper. It secures you when fear tries to creep in. That is why the most dangerous person on earth is not the one with power, but the one with purpose. Power without purpose can be corrupted, but purpose fuels power with clarity. Purpose gives direction to your fire. Purpose makes you unstoppable, because even when opposition rises, you already know where you are going and why. Influence cannot turn a man or woman who is locked in on destiny. It may touch them, but it cannot dominate them. This is why you must guard your fire. Guard your purpose. Protect it like a treasure. Because if the witch cannot extinguish it, she will try to distract it. If she cannot distract it, she will try to confuse it. If she cannot confuse it, she will try to delay it. But as long as you remain burning, as long as you stay aligned with why you are here, she cannot dominate. And here is the truth. Purpose itself is fireproof. Purpose was not given to you by people, so it cannot be destroyed by people. Purpose was not created by circumstances, so it cannot be stopped by circumstances. Purpose is divine, and when your life is burning with it, You become a force that influence cannot control. You may feel the pressure, but you will not break. You may hear the whispers, but you will not believe them. You may face the shadows, but you will not bow. The witch can only dominate those who are empty, those who are idle, those who are wandering without direction. But a life burning with purpose is already occupied. It has no room for domination. That fire makes you resilient, it makes you bold, it makes you immune to manipulation. You are not swayed by temporary voices, because you are already consumed by an eternal vision. That is why the flame is feared. It is not just heat, it is clarity. It is not just light, it is direction. It is not just fire, it is destiny on display. So never underestimate the power of your fire. When you burn with purpose, you carry a strength that influence cannot override. You carry a conviction that fear cannot dilute. You carry a determination that darkness cannot break. And as long as your flame keeps burning, no witch, no scheme, no force of manipulation will ever dominate your life.